Hello there.
At last, where have you been?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
This is where the fun begins.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Jedi Eternal, a Star Wars podcast. This is episode 62. Here we are back in the studio after a little bit of a hiatus during our transition. I am one of your co-hosts, Braxton Taylor, alongside Andrew. Doesn't know a good deal when he sees one. Bolin. Listen, buddy, I don't think you have any clue what the word passive income is. Andrew's over here. First of all, I'm sitting here lonely, crying. He's over there in the corner with his wife, like trying to buy cars or whatever. I'm trying to help him, I'm trying to look out for him, trying to help my buddy here. And I find a pristine, beautiful 2003 limousine for only $7,000. Okay, I'm like, okay, bud. Have you ever heard of passive income? This could be your daily driver, and you could also have a business on the side. Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, okay.
Come on. Tell me what the issue is.
I don't want to hear you tell me about passive income when you're over there spending your hard-earned money on Candy Crush.
No, I don't spend my money on Candy
My
Crush.
man's over there sitting. Now, here's the real story.
I send requests to middle-aged women to send me free lives.
I'm over here trying to find a vehicle for my wife. And Braxton's over there playing Candy Crush, and I saw it. I'm like, wait, I thought we made fun of people that play Candy Crush.
Yeah, maybe when I was 12. I'm 20. I'm going on 26. This is a fun game, okay? I don't care what you say.
Of all the mobile games out there, your poison is Candy Crush.
I have like 20 games on my phone, but I do play Candy Crush every single day. So. Anyway, so long story short, hope everybody's doing good. As you can tell, we're on one today. Clearly, it's been an interesting day. Long story short, we hope you're doing well. Thank you for coming back. This is the first episode in a little bit. Again, it seems like every episode we've had has been kind of off and on. It's crazy.
It's been a crazy year.
It has.
We started this, to put it into perspective. We started this thing right before COVID hit, okay?
Yeah.
But what that allowed us to do
plenty of time
was to have plenty of time to easily record like every week, right? I mean, we went very consistent for a very long time.
We had nothing else to do.
Now that things have kind of turned back to normal, sort of,
and it's kind of sort of go back another way.
It's sort of starting to go backwards, but we'll see where things go. But all that being said, life has gotten a lot busier. It's been much harder for us to get together and record as much. But please do not fret. We're not going anywhere.
Right.
We're still in this for the long haul. We just may not be as consistent as we used to be.
And hey, if we don't have a podcast, as you guys have seen, we are fairly consistently posting our Let's Plays as well.
Yeah, so and that's kind of been our new plan, right? And just in case you have not heard, our new structure is that we want to do a podcast every other week. And then on those off weeks, we have our Let's Play videos. And then if something goes awry and we cannot have our podcast again, we can still post another Let's Play. That's the idea, is that no matter what, there is something from us every week. And if you choose to, if you truly want us in your life every week, which
there's
that's
something
that's
out
debatable. But I will say, if you've not watched our Let's Plays yet, please go and support it.
Please.
I'm just gonna be brutally honest. With ourselves and you guys, our Let's Play view counts are very low. In comparison to how many of you listen to our podcast, it is a very, very vast difference. Please go and support that if you're interested. Even if you're not interested, like, if you do it just to listen to us, like, we still have our typical like banter back and forth,
like middle school.
Like, if nothing else, if you just want to listen to us ramble, like, you can do that on there. It's
Yeah.
not we don't just talk about the game. There is more, and trust me, we're gonna get into some crazy stuff as the series
Yes.
goes on. So please consider supporting that. Those view counts and shares would be tremendous. Even if you don't watch it, if you just want to share the video to your Facebook, like that's going to help us too. You know, every share, every view count helps. So.
Yeah. And again, just kind of bounce off of what Andrew's saying. You know, one of the reasons that we're even doing Let's Plays is because a lot of people suggested that. Funny enough, like several months ago, we did some polls like, hey, you know, we thought about expanding. What are some things? And adding video and playing games was a big one. So if you guys are not enjoying it or something like that, or maybe there's something you thought we could do better or whatever, let us know. We want to know. We want to have it get better.
And
so
for sure, like that's one thing, right? If there's something you don't like about it, just tell us.
Yeah,
like,
we will absolutely change it.
We'll change it.
we are your
and one person
servants.
did. Yeah, actually, I don't know if you've seen.
Yes, I did.
Alex Mason suggested that we.
Mind.
Yeah, he said. He asked for us to skip the dialogue.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so that's our first. Or was there another one? I haven't.
Well, originally promised.
Originally, yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, so
I
like
didn't see
that's
that,
that's something we're going to take into consideration going forward. And if that's something that people don't want to wait through, that's fine with me. You know,
sure,
it'll make us get through it faster. So
yeah.
So that's stuff to consider, but
yeah, and we also try to do it pretty raw too. You know, like what we're playing is what we do. So if you want some more editing, where it's just kind of like skipping to the clippable moment sort of thing, like we can also try to do that as well. But it's just whatever you guys want. But at the end of the day, we want you guys to be happy. We want you guys to enjoy whatever we're doing. So let us know.
And one last thing about it: if you only watched our first episode, please give it another chance because we have made several improvements since that first episode.
Yes.
Not only I think in just content-wise, where we loosened up a little after that first episode, but also in our recording capabilities, everything is much higher
tier
now than it was in that first video. So that's another thing to consider because our first video had a lot more views than the rest of our videos. So we know some of you watched that and then quit.
Oh wow, that was horrible.
It is better now. It may still not be your thing, and that's fine if it's not. But it is better quality
give it a try.
than it originally was. So. Yeah.
So we're not going to harp on it too much longer, but we do thank each and every one of you who have continued to support us through that as we kind of try to venture on a secondary thing. But we'd ask that you just help us out here, support us a little bit. Again, if you don't like it for some reason, like a specific reason, let us know. But what we will continue to do is our podcast, which we know a lot of people like. So we're going to move on with our regularly scheduled program here. So we have quite a bit of news, a lot of stuff. We kind of had a lot of stuff build up as we weren't doing a podcast for 2 or 3 weeks straight.
Sure, and there's a lot we just kind of had to push off to the side and not even talk about today.
Yeah,
because there's just been a lot of news that has compiled in the time that in almost a month since we did the podcast last. So
anyway, sorry about that, folks. But we're gonna hit on some of the bigger things. These are things you may already know about, but we want to make sure that we hit on it for anyone who may not be familiar.
Right.
So numero uno is Disney has announced that their Disney Plus Day is going to be hitting on November 12th. So those of you who may or may not remember, Disney Plus Day in 2020 was about a month later, so it's a month earlier coming in, but that was when we got all of the news of all the crazy shows that we are getting, right? All the 1,000,001 Disney Plus Star Wars shows. So we don't know exactly what's going to be on that list that I know of at least, but we do know that Disney Plus Day is coming November 12th, and it's very possible that we're going to get some big drops or at least something to kind of chew on, maybe more details on the things that we already know of. So Drew, what do you have on that?
Yeah, so they're saying this is going to be an unprecedented company-wide cross-promotional campaign, and its purpose is to increase engagement with Disney Plus. They said they have a really exciting lineup of titles to announce. So we, of course, can assume that we're going to probably see very similar to what we saw last year when they had a similar thing. We saw titles from all the different branches of Disney, right? And so, you're going to have your MCU stuff, you're going to have your Pixar, just Disney animation, But then, and the reason we're bringing it up is because you're also going to get Star Wars.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you who may not know this, all of those titles we got last year, towards the very end of the year, all of a sudden we had this big, long announcement of Star Wars titles that came out of nowhere, right? That came from this event last year. And so now I don't think we're going to get that again this year.
Not as nearly as
because
big, I would
we've already
imagine.
announced the titles for multiple years, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that we are going to receive some fairly big updates for some of these titles. And with, of course, the opportunity to announce a couple of new ones as well.
Sure.
But I think we will receive updates. And if looking at the time, I think it's safe bet to assume that we could potentially see Andor involved in this.
Absolutely.
And even maybe Kenobi.
Yeah,
those would be my
absolutely.
two biggest guesses at maybe seeing some kind of. Now, something also to consider is last year when they did show teasers, they didn't show it to everyone.
Sure.
And that was kind of a big bummer. But
I remember. Yeah, because we was watching it, and then every time I show a teaser, it'd black out the screen. I'm like, what?
They would cut it off.
Come on. Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes, but guaranteed there will be some exciting stuff come out of that, and we'll probably do what we did last year. We will create a post where we will live comment during the episode and keep you guys updated, so you can follow that thread, and we'll keep you guys up to date. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Drew takes on the next one.
Yeah, so next we have the next tier of the Essential Legends collection. So this is the third wave of books that they have now announced. Now, actually, the second wave has not even been released yet. They release, I believe, next month in September, but we've already got a third wave announced.
Yeah.
Now, as I have said to you guys before, I think there may be more to this than meets the eye, like the Transformers.
More than meets the eye. Exactly.
Because let's go before I tell you the new titles. Let's talk about what we've already gotten. Right, we got Heir to the Empire in Wave 1. We got Darth Bane, Path of Destruction in Wave 1, and then we got Shatterpoint in Wave 1. Okay, we know that Thrawn is a very important character in Star Wars right now, and we know that there's more to come with him. So, Heir to the Empire, the connection there. We know that there's a lot of talk about Sith Lords going on right now, and potential things to do with Sith Lords and the Old Republic. So, there's your Darth Bane connection. And then Shatterpoint's the one that's kind of less obvious, but I do want to point out that a lot of people still to this day believe Mace Windu is not dead and that he eventually will come back for something. So is there a connection to that or not with this novel? Because the Shatterpoint novel is focused on Mace Windu. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to hit on that basically that same thing, not to regurgitate, but on the same place here. You know, we had seen a lot of Legends things that are being somewhat related to or tied to things that are going on.
Right.
And so, it would make a lot of sense that, hey, you know, maybe these really aren't, going to ever come to fruition. They're going to stay Legends, but it's kind of sparking that fire, you know, rekindling the flame, getting people like, hey, thinking about these characters again or that storyline again, and they're going to play a motif on that. So,
and then Wave 2, which is coming out next month, where we're getting the second book in the Thrawn trilogy, Dark Force Rising. And then we are getting the second Darth Bane book, Darth Bane Rule of 2. And then we're getting the first book in the X-Wing series, X-Wing Rogue Squadron. That is significant as well because, as we know, we are getting a movie titled Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Now let's discuss this new phase that was just announced. And this is, again, kind of, to me, is still hinting at these books may have more significance than what we know.
Yeah.
Wave 3 is going to have, of course, the final book in the Darth Bane trilogy, Darth Bane Dynasty of Evil. Then it's going to have the second book in the X-Wing series, X-Wing Wedge's Gamble. But and this is the one that, again, I think is very interesting to point out. It's also going to have Kenobi. And first of all, excellent novel. But
Is it the one that
John Jackson Miller, yeah. Yes, and so again, there's a good reason for that to be being released right now, right?
Yep.
And then we also are getting Darth Plagueis. A lot of focus on the Sith in these, and now you could say, well, it's just because they're great novels. It's true. Like most of these are fantastic novels,
and there were ones that when they came out, a lot of people liked. You know what I'm saying? There's a fan favorites. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But it's only, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. But I think there's good things to come from this. I think that there are things we can look a little deeper into with what we're seeing here in the trajectory of Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
But let's my dog is like going crazy. She just wants me to scratch her bottom. Say bottom just in case some kids are listening.
Oh my gosh.
Bottom.
And to clarify even further, it's on her lower back above her tail, okay? So yeah. All right. So is that what we had on that one, or we move on?
Yeah, that's all we got.
Okay, get me distracted. Anyway, all right. So this is again something that's probably not a big shocker to anybody, just in general, and secondarily, you may probably have already seen this at this point. But those of you who may not be aware, we wanted to make sure to hit on this because it is pretty big, and that is that we have a confirmation from Disney themselves that Bad Batch is confirmed to receive a season 2 reprisal, or however you say it. so yeah, Bad Batch is coming back for a season 2. Of course, we're going to get later in this episode. Our main topic is discussing the finale and the end of the season. But for those of you who enjoyed it, or those of you who went, hey man, this story is really not as resolved as I'd want it to be, well, hey, season 2 is coming. So, Drew, do you have anything to say to that?
Nope.
All right. And take us on to our next one. We have more thoughts on Bad Batch. We're going to get down to it. We don't want to harp on it.
Let's not waste any time right now about it. We're going to just as a preview. Yes, we are going to talk about the season finale of Bad Batch as our main topic.
Yeah.
So we'll get to it.
We'll get there at some point.
Yeah,
you'll hear about it.
Moving on. Now this is this was a surprise when they announced it. There's going to be another Lego Star Wars movie coming out on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Titled Star Wars Terrifying Tales. Now, you make that joke, but it really truly is taking place after the events of Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it is.
No.
So again, the only thing to take place after Rise of Skywalker is now going to be these two Lego movies, because no one else has the guts to
wow.
have anything taking place in that time period.
That's crazy.
So basically it says, well, let's just read this. After the events of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, Poe Dameron and BB-8 must make an emergency landing on the volcanic planet Mustafar, where they meet the greedy and conniving Graballa the Hutt. The crime boss has purchased Darth Vader's castle and is renovating it into the galaxy's first all-inclusive Sith-inspired luxury hotel.
Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So anyways,
how many Sith are there? That's one.
To make a longer story short, along the way they end up like talking about 3 creepy stories linked to ancient artifacts and iconic villains from across all eras of Star Wars. So it's probably going to have I assume it'll focus on like Sith again, probably.
I'm sure
in that, but like again, I'll also assume, like the first one, this will not be canon.
Yeah.
But it is funny that
it's up in the air at this point.
It is funny though that like this is what we get from after Rise of Skywalker.
I mean, honestly, at this point, it's like, well, they don't want to. Or let me phrase that: they don't want to actually do it. They just kind of want to toy with the idea. So all they're willing to do is an animated Lego movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will be watching this.
Oh,
and I'm sure it'll be a great time.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun little thing. I can watch it with my daughter, and So
yeah, I mean, we'll definitely watch it.
I mean, we'll watch it together.
And we'll watch it together
daughter.
for sure. And his daughter might be there.
Yeah, she might be there.
She could be there. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. She might talk too much. I'm like, go play in your room.
Go back.
We're
to your
trying
room.
to
Okay.
watch this Lego movie.
Lego movie. Go back in your room. Anyway, no. So anyway, we'll probably watch it. We'll probably love it. It's gonna be funny, just like the last one. Because they're not serious. But again, I think it just more than anything, it's kind of funny. That's how they're.
Well, and our
tackling this.
expectations are set this time. We were a little disappointed last time because our
Right.
expectations were a little too high.
Yeah, we didn't know what to expect right off the bat.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that but anyway. Oh, I think it's okay.
Sorry, we
I
paused.
think
I thought the recording went off for a second on his computer, and like, oh no, it's just a screensaver.
Yeah, I thought it messed up. That was scary.
No,
we're good.
Okay.
So yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that.
All right, so let's move on to our final news piece for the week. Again, we had more stuff to talk about, but we just wanted to shorten it just to make this not like a crazy 2-hour long episode. But the final news piece for this week is that the second installment of Tales from Galaxy's Edge, which was a VR game, is actually arriving this fall. So those of you, again, who may not be exactly familiar with this, on Oculus Quest, or excuse me, yes, Oculus Quest.
Yeah.
They had released an exclusive VR experience in a VR game called Tales from Galaxy's Edge, where, again, you could go and play as this kind of an anonymous Star Wars character, and you're going throughout the different eras of Galaxy's Edge, Batu, how it went through it. So, long story short, the next installment of that game, so just the next part that they're releasing, is coming out this fall.
Yeah, so I started the first one. We live streamed
Oh yeah, we did do that.
and I totally forgot about it and never finished it.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do a live stream and finish that before this comes out.
Yeah, that would be a bad idea.
We should probably plan to do that.
Yeah.
But this one's called Last Call. I was enjoying the first one. I mean, it was a good time when I was playing it. So
Yeah.
And these are fun. If you have an Oculus, like, there's no reason not to do these.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a little piece of kind of feeling like you're in the Star Wars universe, right? Like, why not do it? And so,
Exactly.
they're a little pricey for
what they are.
For what they are.
Yeah, that's how it is for every VR game.
But
honestly,
it is. Like, VR games are ridiculously expensive.
Yeah,
like they can be like a tiny little like mini game, and they'll charge you $30.
Literally, yeah.
But with that being said, the price point of those are actually, when thinking in terms of VR games, they are actually priced pretty great.
Yeah, especially for like an actual like Star Wars Disney license type thing. Yeah.
But if you're not used to the price point of VR games, it feels very expensive. All that being said, what in the world? Sorry. I'm excited to continue this, and I hope they continue to make these. Like, just let's keep making them.
I love the idea. Honestly, it's a really cool idea that we're getting some actual, like, it's just another, again, like you said, another way to experience Star Wars. And again, why not? So, yeah. So it's cool stuff. If you guys are into that, or maybe not even have VR stuff.
And they are canon. So, like, that's another thing. You know, they are part of the Star Wars canon, and it makes you kind of feel like you're living out a part of that canon.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Very cool. All right, so that is going to end our news for this week, but we're going to go ahead into our rumor section. So let's just jump right into it. So first and foremost, we have been talking recently about the Ahsoka series, and we've been hearing more about that. But according to some rumors that we've been hearing, the Ahsoka series is actually starting to cast roles for Sabine Wren. And what I meant to say is basically they're trying to cast an actress to play Sabine Wren. So at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see who they choose. I know there's been some like rumors running around about who that may be and blah, blah, blah. But at this point, they're just like saying, hey, we're looking for someone to play her. Of course, that is a rumor, though.
Yeah. And we heard a lot of rumors about Sabine being cast in The Mandalorian, right?
Yes.
Lots of rumors about it, lots of speculation.
Yeah.
It ended up being false. She was not in it.
Yeah. But
I think she's definitely going to be in Ahsoka. I fully think she will be, and I will say this rumor is is coming from a fairly decent source. We're getting this rumor from the Hollywood Reporter, which is a little bit of a higher esteemed place to be giving us a rumor like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the chances of them looking to cast Sabine is very likely.
Right.
And in the timeline of things, it would also make sense that they're looking to cast about right now, right? Because they're going to have to start production on this sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
But they're probably not started just yet. So
yeah, and that's about all we say on that one.
yeah, I mean, really, that's like that's
we
all
don't have
can
much
really
information
say.
on it right now. So,
but it
just makes
exciting
sense, though,
things
for sure.
headed that way, I'm sure. So,
oh yeah.
And then our next rumor, our favorite guy,
Our favorite little rumor mill himself,
Carlo Esposito, is back at it again. A lot of you may remember us talking as season 2 was approaching. He was just dishing out spoilers
every week. There was
something new that he had said in an interview, and he has started again. He was being interviewed, and he said they just finished shooting Boba Fett, and soon they will start on season 3.
Which, I mean, sure, rumor, yeah, but like that's pretty plausible. I don't think no one like is surprised by that.
Well, right,
you know?
like I mean, he just said soon, right? Like I mean,
Yeah.
well, duh, we all kind of assume it's going to be soon,
right.
but there's also been other rumors going around before he ever even said this that it actually had started.
Okay, gotcha.
And maybe for him it's starting soon, but maybe it has started. And I think if we're going to hit a 2022 release for The Mandalorian, which is still uncertain, maybe in November we're going to get more of an idea of what is coming.
Especially with Disney Plus days.
Yeah, like what
that,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like maybe then we'll kind of start to understand the order of things because
right.
as we've talked about, we have Andor that's been in production for a long time and should be wrapping up, if not wrapped up. We have Boba Fett, which has all but been confirmed that it's done.
Mm-hmm.
We have Kenobi, which we had heard Mandalorian wasn't starting till Kenobi was done, right?
Right.
Or at least till it was mostly finished. So you have to assume that it's probably almost done. All of these, they're not going to throw all of them in 1 year, right? At least you don't assume so. You assume they're going to want to space them out. And so something that's most likely already finished still isn't going to appear next year.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. And the question is, what are they going to put in that, what I would call the prime time spot of the end of 2022, that holiday time? What's going to be the big one?
Could be Kenobi.
As what'd you say?
So it could be Kenobi.
It could be, but Kenobi is kind of it messes with the flow of things. They've had The Mandalorian the past 2 years. Now we're having the Book of Boba Fett, which is a continuation. It feels like we should be continuing in that, right? And have The Mandalorian season 3.
You would think, yeah.
And then probably Ahsoka the year after that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of, at least in my head, what would make sense. But where do they fit Kenobi?
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly,
I think that's the point, right? It's like, you're right. At the end of the day, where does this puzzle piece fit?
Yeah.
And I think, in my opinion, it's one of those things like just wherever they can. Because, I mean, it doesn't really go with the timeline that they're setting up right now. It's beforehand several years, you know.
Right. So it can kind of fit anywhere. But the thing is they want it to fit somewhere that's going to be effective.
Well, because here's the thing. Whatever they do with Kenobi, most likely they're going to try to use it to lead to something else. So, again, whatever that may be, I don't know.
And then you have Andor, which we have kind of assumed Andor is going to be like a spring release, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe not. I mean...
Yeah, maybe they're going to hold it where Kenobi comes first and then Andor, which would be just a wild, crazy thing how Andor, again, we talked about in the previous episode, was like, this was the first thing to be talked about.
And let's throw another thing here. We've got confirmed a Bad Batch Season 2.
True.
You assume Bad Batch Season 2 is, again, it's going to be released during the summer, right? The beginning of summer.
Yeah, you think so. Yeah.
So
that could fit somewhere in there. Yeah.
It's unless they truly are getting to a point where they're like, okay, let's do something Star Wars every season.
Yeah, that could
Because
also
I
be.
mean, if they start following after what the MCU has done with Disney Plus, they're at this point. At this point, the MCU pretty much consistently has something going on.
Yeah, there's something out
there's
there at all
there's
times.
there's a very small
other than right now.
dead spot every once. Well, no, not even now. They have What If that just started.
Yeah, I keep forgetting.
So
What If
now they
came
have
out,
What
yeah.
If, and it's like there's been consistent MCU almost this entire year, and I'm curious if they feel like they can do that with Star Wars, but will it work with Star Wars or will it be too much?
Yeah, Star Wars is a different beast, than Marvel is, and so, again, Marvel's a comic series. Star Wars is I don't know. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's more serious, but at the same time, I think it's maybe taken more seriously by children and adults alike. So yeah, maybe they have a different schedule that they want to try to go off of. I really don't know. So anyway, we can talk about that all day, but let's move on. So our final rumor for this week is something, again, that we have talked about for a long time, something we have already said and we probably think is going to happen, at least to some degree, but we wanted to include this as a rumor because, hey, we hear other people starting to talk about it, so might as well. So that rumor is that Inquisitors may be appearing in the Kenobi series. And again, no big surprise to us necessarily. Again, this is just a rumor. It's not confirmed, I suppose. But, again, the fact that people are talking about this, I think it's one of those things where it's just like, it kind of makes sense. We have Jedi hunters. But, well, during that time, who would that even be? Well, Inquisitors, right? So, yeah, that rumor's been floating around. And, again, something that, I don't think it's too big a surprise.
No, it's not a big surprise. If we look at the timeline of this show and where Kenobi is set, if Darth Vader is involved, if Kenobi is involved, it makes perfect sense that the Inquisitors are going to be going after him, right?
Oh, yeah.
It just makes perfect sense. And so I think also that allows for potential battles between Kenobi and other lightsaber wielders, which will be incredible, be awesome to see.
Oh man,
and and also bring some kind of enemy that is a little more deserving of Kenobi, right? Like if he's only facing stormtroopers, like it's not going to be that big of a deal, right? And we know he's eventually probably going to face Darth Vader to some extent, but like having other enemies involved that are more higher scale, let's be honest, they're still not going to be able to even compare to Kenobi, but but it's going to be more of a challenge and be able to create some pretty epic fighting scenes, I believe. So
yeah, absolutely.
And we know one of the rumors is that one of them's gonna at least be the fifth brother. So
yeah, that'd be really cool.
So I'm all for that. I cannot wait for us to get just a little more details on what this Kenobi series is going to be. And again, November very well may be the first reveal of kind of what that story is going to tell. So
yeah, so super exciting stuff. So a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, so that's all for our rumors. We're going to jump into our releases, and we have a couple of releases coming here this next week. As you guys know, Bad Batch is done, so we're kind of at a point of there's not really anything to watch right now.
Right.
But we do have the War of the Bounty Hunters still going on in comics, which is telling a story throughout multiple different series. And on Wednesday, August 18th, we will have War of the Bounty Hunters Star Wars, just the main Star Wars comic. We will also have the High Republic Adventures issue number 7 and Star Wars Adventures issue number 8. So all of those will be coming this Wednesday. That has been a very interesting story. A little spoiler alert for you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. We do have Kira back. Okay, from this series, and if you don't know who Kira is the love interest of Han Solo in the Solo movie, and so she is back in this, and she's actually fighting to keep the body of Han Solo, which is currently frozen in carbonite. And so she has it, and all of these different bounty hunters, pretty much every bounty hunter you can think of in the Star Wars lore at that time.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Darth Vader, on top of that, the whole usual hero crew that we know and love.
And Captain America.
All of them are trying to get Han back. And so it's a very interesting series so far, a lot of fun. So check those out if you haven't yet. And I want to also give out a little thing about the High Republic. Wave 2, as you guys know, has been releasing, and I have finished Star Wars The High Republic, The Rising Storm, which is the second adult novel. I want to just go ahead and let you guys know that book is amazing.
Really? Okay. Nice.
I can't tell you how much I love this book.
Really? Wow.
So I enjoyed the first book a lot. It was a great book.
Yeah.
But this second book takes it to a whole nother level.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And it really amps just everything up a notch. And the first book made me like invested in the High Republic. Okay,
Yeah,
like I was like, okay,
yeah.
I'm invested in this. I'm gonna see it through.
Yeah.
The second book made me fall in love with the High Republic.
Really? That's all. I mean, that's great. That's great because I know there's been a lot of turbulence.
Yeah.
Even with just us, but like turbulence in the community about like, oh, this is so kiddie, and what was gravitating us to this story. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. No, I'm all in now. Like I love it. I love the characters. Stellan Gaios is amazing in this book. Let me tell you, he is the Kenobi of the High Republic, and it was just extremely good and surprisingly dark. This is a surprisingly dark novel. It deals with some very traumatic, dark things, and I cannot wait to see where it goes from here.
Awesome.
We will have a spoiler review eventually, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish. So I've also read the second junior grade novel, which is not a bad novel, but again, it's not really like
it's a junior grade.
Yeah, it's a junior grade novel. And I'm currently reading the young adult novel, which is Out of the Shadows, which is good so far.
Oh, good.
I'm not gonna go into that too much just yet till I finish, but I think what we'll do is we'll have a Wave 2 review.
Oh, okay,
so
nice.
once I finish that book, we will discuss Wave 2 as a whole, just talk about the story, some of the bigger moments in that, and we'll just do that all in one. So be looking for that probably within the next month or so. We'll probably do that. So
Sweet. All right. Well, and also last thing I'll mention, and this is not coming up for a little bit, but I just want to remind everybody now that we're coming to the end of what we can visually watch television show wise, people think what's next. Just remind everybody that Star Wars Visions is coming out next month in September. And that's going to be, again, a series of basically Japanese anime style Star Wars stories. And a lot of the best or highest anime studios in Japan are taking on a single episode a piece. And it's going to be very cool for those of you who enjoy that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, for sure. And actually, when you said that, it made me remember that at the end of this month, we're getting one last episode of The Making of the Mandalorian Season 2. And that's going to be all about Mark Hamill coming back as Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
And so we definitely will be watching that episode.
100%.
And we may even we may have a review of that just to talk about it. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll
see how substantial it is.
See. All right, so we're going to move into our Q&A. I'm going to have to do this slightly quickly because my laptop is about to die, so this is great. I don't know what it is, folks. My laptop is like 2
you don't have a
years
charger
old.
with you?
No. And it just died. Like once it hits halfway, it just plummets. Anyway, so I'm not going to go through my whole spiel. You all know what Q&A topic is, what we do every week. So let's get into our first question for the week, and this is pulled from Kristen Perry. This was from a while back, but she asks, where did Captain Rex get his name from? Which is a very good question. So again, like a lot of answers in our Q&A, there's a long answer and a short answer. The short answer for this one is that in canon, current canon, there's not a lot. It's just his name's Captain Rex, right? He just kind of chose it for himself. But we can deep dive into the Legends territory. So originally, again, Rex's designation was CT-7567, but he actually, again, got his name in canon. We don't know, right? It's a bit of a mystery. But in Legends, essentially the idea of giving a clone a nickname or a name other than his CT number was actually started by Anakin Skywalker. Believe it or not, right? But basically, at the very beginning of the inception of the clones in Legends, again, the inception of the clone, the very first wave of clones were called the Alpha clones, and they were all numbered. And Alpha 17 was one of the bigger ones that we read about in Legends. But basically, after receiving the name Alpha, so I mean, his name was Alpha 17, so his nickname is Alpha. Big jump there, right? But basically, he liked that. He liked that Anakin, a commander, a Jedi general, was, taking the time to individualize him. And so then Alpha would go on to share that ideology, so to speak, with any of the clones that he personally trained. So basically, again, in Legends, the Alpha troopers, which were, again, led by Alpha 17, would go to select the random, CT troopers, so the regs, as they call them in Bad Batch, right? They would choose some of them who they thought would be good for the advanced recon commando training or ARC training, right? And so some of the very first ones that got chosen, one of them was CT-7567, which is Rex. And to make a very long story short, and it's kind of a melodramatic answer or whatever, anticlimactic, maybe that's a better word for it, is that basically Alpha told Rex, hey, you need to choose your own name. And then through his battles, after earning his ARC trooper status, Rex chose his name as Rex. So that is the Legends story behind it, but there's really not much to it in canon. Now, unless, Drew, do you know of anything in canon that where Rex got his name?
I don't. I don't think they've touched on it in as far as canon goes.
Yeah.
So I think, what I always like to say is if canon hasn't changed it, then you can
probably
you can safely assume that there's a good chance it's still the same, right?
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways they've backed that up with things we've seen since the birth of the Disney. If they don't change it, sometimes they end up just kind of reconfirming those Legends facts, right? So I would say it's safe to assume it's probably kind of a similar thing, unless said otherwise.
Yeah. So I mean, again, it's not a very he earned it because this person named Rexelius Brotonius, died for him in the 7th season of this, no, nothing like that, right? I mean, it was more like he just liked that name. He thought it was good. When Alpha told him he could give him his own name, he picked Rex. I mean, that's really about it. So, all right, great question. Our second question comes from Philip Miohuron, a friend of mine, and he says, and it's a very, very good question, why do Force users use their hands, right? So does it channel the Force, or is it a medium in which the Force is used, or can they use the Force without even using hands? Why do they use their hands? So good question. Something I haven't really thought about a whole lot. It's just some of those kind of funny things that we kind of just throw out there. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things that we just think, oh, that's just the way it is. But I wanted to maybe deep dive into this a little bit. So, and this is just my opinion. I just do this through observation and a little bit of research, and you all may have a different opinion. Drew may even have a different opinion. But just to give my opinion, I feel like, using the hands is sort of like an exit point for the Force, right, through their body. It's like an antenna. The Force comes from the life force inside of them, but using the hands is like it's something that focuses the Force, right? It's something that hones it into a sharp point, so to speak. So, for instance, I'll give you 2 examples. So we do see in Revenge of the Sith, we see at the very end when Vader gets his suit, and he asks, well, where's Padme? Is Padme all right? And Palpatine says, in your anger, you killed her, Lord Vader. And all of a sudden, he just goes nuts, and he starts screaming, and everything around him starts popping and squeezing and flying around and stuff. Obviously, Vader was not using his hands per se, right? He was not focusing on any one thing, but the sheer power of the Force was flowing out of him, and just things were moving. But we see later on, through other characters and through Vader, right? He uses his hands to force choke someone, something very specific. Palpatine using his hands to shoot out Force lightning, which is a specific thing. Then you can also go into Empire Strikes Back. Vader, he's fighting with Luke in Cloud City, right? And all of a sudden, he starts throwing things at Luke. But he's not using his hands, per se, like a specific hand gesture. He's using his lightsaber as he's pointing the saber at him, and things are flying. So again, I don't think necessarily it has to do specifically with the hands, but I do think using something to pinpoint the Force gives it that much more power, and it's toned. It's more like, it's like using a water hose versus like a water pressure nozzle, right? Like the same amount of water at the end of the day comes out, but the pressure is much more with the second one, with the water pressure nozzle, because it channels it differently. So a really deep dive on that one, but it's something I was like, man, that's a really good question. So I wanted to give as much in-depth answer as I can. So Drew, what do you want to add to that?
I mean, I think you covered it pretty well. And I agree. I think, it's all about just channeling that, right? And focusing and as we see a lot of times, when Jedi use the Force, they either stretch out their hand or they close their eyes and they're like meditating, or they're still focusing. And I think using their hand as a way to not necessarily have to close their eyes, but they move their hand, point at whatever they're wanting to do, and it helps to channel that and focus that into that Force ability. So
I agree. And I think, and again, to kind of supplement that, with what you just said, unfortunately as it is, we know that, excuse me, I'm trying to clean my glasses here. We know that the Jedi and the light side users are not any less powerful. It's not like let me phrase that. They don't have less Force flowing through them. But as we can see, the way that dark side users basically abuse the Force, they can pull more things out of it, so to speak. So I think, again, a lot of times we don't usually ever see a light side user not using their hands, other than maybe when they're, again, like I said, they're meditating, they're closing their eyes, they're really concentrating. We do see some dark side users able to just like stand there, eyes wide open, look at something, and then throw something or whatever. And that's usually kind of an extreme circumstance. But I do think it's, again, that the light side users are using the hand gestures or the stream focus to concentrate on exactly what they're wanting to do in focusing that Force. So great question. Something I never thought of until, it's one of those things that kind of challenges the very core of like, Force users just use their hands. Like, well, why? So great question.
Great question. Thank you.
So the last one comes from Kristen again, because we posted a...
Kristen's the best.
Kristen is the best when it comes to these questions, and we appreciate it, Kristen. Because we posted one yesterday, a Q&A, and we got a comment from her. The other comment was from actually Alex, but it wasn't a question. Is talking about Bad Batch, so we're going to use it in our main topic. But anyway, so our third and last question comes from Kristen again, who says, if you could... I'm sorry, I maybe have missed this up. Basically, her question was, if you could make a Star Wars game, in any style, any way that you could possibly want, if you could make a Star Wars game, what kind of game would you guys make? Would it be Lego? Would it be open world? What would it be? So I've been taking a lot of time here. Drew, go ahead and lead us off. If you could make any kind of Star Wars game, any style whatsoever, what would it be?
I would make a very narrative-driven, very story-focused Jedi game. So it would be very similar in that sense to the Knights of the Old Republic, except it'd be a little more cinematic. So think like Uncharted style, right? So very like almost feel like you're in a movie when you're playing it, but still have narrative choices and and the action would be more like Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay, gotcha.
So it'd be kind of a mix of different things there to create. Essentially, it would just be a new version of Knights of the Old Republic, right? Like it would be it'd be a more modernized Knights of the Old Republic. That's but yeah, I mean, like if I were to pick anything, it'd probably be like during the High Republic.
Yeah. Okay.
Like set a game during the High Republic with all of that, and I would say it'd be kind of close to open world, but the story itself would be very linear, and as far as like maybe like Grand Theft Auto, like open world, but then when you go into a mission, right? Like I don't know, there'd be you could play with it different ways, but
that's kind of my answer too, to some degree.
And then, but I would also like to see it like be kind of like a live service in the sense that so like even when the story ends, it continues. So like they'll update the world with new things. They'll add new story content throughout time, and it kind of just continues and grows and evolves. That's my pick.
Yeah, that's a great. I'd play it. But no, I honestly am kind of the same way. I would honestly, for me personally, I would say something even broader than what Andrew said. For me, I want a completely massive, beyond all scope and recognition open world. For instance, if anyone ever played Assassin's Creed, what's that called? Gosh, what is it called, Drew?
Which one?
I'm trying to think.
There's a lot of Assassin's Creed games.
The one where they said that the map was way too big and it was like
Assassin's Creed.
The Greek one, I think. Right?
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. If you played that, you recognize that is a huge, absurdly large map. It's so huge.
I want one even bigger than that. I want an complete open world where you can go to any Star Wars planet at any time. And so I like linear stories, but I think what would be really cool is that it's almost like you forge your own story. You become your own character. You can design whatever one you want, whether it be a bounty hunter, if you want to be a Force user, whatever. You can pick that at the very beginning, and you go out through the entire galaxy, and like basically you just forge your own. You can do whatever you want. Forge your own story, create, and then like see. But I think the thing that like that's kind of impossible for games to make right now because like not every single person you interact with can have like an infinite amount of story options.
Yeah. So I guess I'm thinking more along like with restrictions
like
on
could
what
we make
video
today?
games can be.
Yeah.
But no, like I see where you're going, and if there were no restrictions and like you could just make it a living, breathing world, right? And then of course, But yeah, I mean, basically, I think the best answer then for me would be kind of what Drew said, right? It be a lot like GTA where it is completely open, where you can do whatever you want. But then, like whenever you want to hit the story, then you can drive it into the specific narratives. And then what would be interesting is again completely copy GTA, where you have linear directed narratives that you can dive into, and then you can go on the online play and then literally do whatever you want and have different updated stuff. Of course, if you have something like that, having a multiplayer aspect that is that same world, but like hey, just go do whatever with your friends. I mean that'd be great.
So anyway, I think at the very base of it, I think Drew and I agree that it would be something probably slightly over the shoulder, camera point, fun, intuitive action and fighting, but also be very big open world where you can explore and do all that kind of stuff, but have a good story. So, that's a very generic answer, but that's our favorite types of games.
Yeah, I mean, it's not anything surprising at all to anyone who's listened to us before.
Yeah, those are our absolute favorite types of games.
I mean, it's just the truth. That's just what we want.
All right, so again, thank you everybody to those Kristen and Philip for submitting questions. Again, we love doing this. We love doing these Q&A sessions. We just love hearing from you guys. Again, what separates it from being just Andrew and I sitting in a room talking to ourselves to actually having a podcast is that when you guys say, hey, talk about this. Hey,
Right.
I've always wondered, what about this? Hey, and you guys give us stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're trying to fish for like stuff to talk about, but at the same time, we just love to spark our brain maybe in some way we've never thought of before. Just like Philip's question, I'd never thought about the hand thing until he mentioned that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so good. I've never thought about that.
Sure.
So questions like that spark our imagination. We love hearing from you guys. So please continue to, even if it's something simple, even if it's something just like just a vague topic. Hey, talk about this. We'll do it. We'll love to hear from you. So without further ado, though, we are going to go into our main topic, our final thing we're going to talk about for this podcast. And that, of course, is the review and the overview of the Bad Batch finale and honestly the Bad Batch season 1. So we're going to get into that. So we're going to be primarily focusing on the last 2 episodes. I don't think we did a review for episode 14, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to go ahead and do 15, 16 because they're
Did we
two-part
even do a
finale.
review of 13?
Maybe not.
I don't know that we did.
Well,
but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter, and you'll see why.
Yeah, it doesn't
See
matter.
why we're gonna say that.
It doesn't matter.
But this was a 2-part finale, so we wanted to kind of tackle it in that way. So, of course, episode 15, 16, which is Return to Kamino, and then Kamino Lost. So, just to give a quick overview of episode 15, which is the penultimate episode, we basically see Hunter getting captured by Crosshair, and essentially they take him back to Kamino after he's been captured to basically just serve as a trap to capture the rest of the Bad Batch. But what's interesting is as they are taking him there and they're setting up this scenario where he can be captured, that he can serve as bait for the others to be captured, we see that Kamino is actually being evacuated. So all the clone, all the technologies, all the stuff is being offloaded. Anyone that's not essential is being executed, and then anyone who can serve some type of purpose is being shuttled off to who knows where else. So it's very interesting as they're setting up this trap. We're also seeing in the background like Kamino is like being emptied. Why? So eventually they find this secret random entrance into Kamino, and they're going into the trap. But to make a very long story short, a bunch of shenanigans happen, and Omega releases killer robots, and basically Crosshair ends up turning, like he's not turning on the Empire, but he turns on the guys who are with him because he doesn't care about them. Kills the Imperial soldiers that's with him, and then basically offers again to Hunter and ultimately the Bad Batch, saying, "Hey, I have spots now open. Obviously, I just kill everybody. You can be with me. We can serve the Empire. We can be together again." And at the end of the episode, for basically, it's that decision, and of course, Hunter says no, and then they stun Crosshair, but all of a sudden now at the very end, Rampart, or Commander Rampart, or whatever his name is bombarding the city and destroying the whole thing. So that ends it for episode 15. So now let's get into episode 16. And the sad part is the synopsis for episode 16 is even shorter than 15. Because basically they're escaping this Kaminoan facility that is being bombarded. They escape together, and at the very end, they propose once more to Crosshair, "Do you want to be with us?" And he says no, and then they fly off, and that's it. That's the finale. So before we get into our ratings, here's Alex Mason's thoughts. he just throws it out there. Now that the season's over, can we please talk about how disappointing the Bad Batch is and how stupid Omega is? Alex's words, not ours. But not too far off.
So,
yeah, take it, Drew. Take it off.
here's what we should take from the Bad Batch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's what actually matters from this entire 16 episode arc. We find out exactly what went down between the Empire and the clones, the established clones, and the Kaminoans, right?
Yeah.
So they come in, the cloning, they need a new They need new DNA to clone with because the cloning that they've used with Jango Fett is running out, right? So they're going to have to do something to continue with these clones. The Empire is newly established, and they have decided, why waste money, time, and effort on these clones when we can now just use whoever we want, and we don't even have to deal with this.
Yeah.
And so basically they kill most of the Kaminoans or enslave or something, right? Like, but they keep one, which is like, I don't remember what her name is, but she's the important one, basically, right? That knows and understands all the cloning stuff, that science. And they keep her, and as we see at the very, very end of this episode, she is being brought to a new facility of the Empire's that we see someone come out. They're wearing the cloning
same uniform
that we see from the Mandalorian that the guy's wearing when he goes and takes Grogu.
Yeah. So
this is clearly a direct connection to that. Now, what that means exactly is uncertain. Yeah. Is this the beginning of... Because they tell her, we have things we're
very interested
to do,
in your technology and your knowledge, yeah.
So we assume it's cloning of some kind, right? So the question is, does this have to do with Palpatine, cloning Palpatine?
Yeah, and
does this have to do with Grogu? Like, is this... Do they already have Grogu, and they're also wanting to... Because here's an important thing that we learned about Omega. Omega ages very slowly.
Yeah, she's actually older than the Bad Batch.
Yeah,
who
she
already
ages very slowly, which means that she could potentially be an asset for Palpatine, right? Like, because that could extend his life.
Right.
And so between that and Grogu being extremely strong in the Force, they would be a good DNA mix, right? For a clone.
Yeah.
So something to consider.
Well, and that's what I'll say. This is what my issue was, right? For me, it feels like they're scrambling in whatever media or medium, right, they put out there, whatever show or whatever. Like, they're trying so desperately to connect it to the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
But the sad part is like, I feel like if this is what they're alluding to in this show, it almost destabilizes what they're trying to portray in The Mandalorian, because the time gap between the end of Bad Batch Season 1 to Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2 is a pretty decent gap there. And the issue
very significant gap, yeah.
Right, and I think something we have to think about is that, like, okay, if you watch Mandalorian Season 1, they're, like, desperately trying to get Grogu because it's like... And again, they never explicitly say this, but it feels like they're just now really starting to finally find something out. They're just now finding how to clone. They're just now doing this and that and the other. And I think, again, the issue for me is like, oh, this person has the same exact uniform on at the end of Bad Batch Season 1. It's like, wait a second, hold on. You're telling me they already have plans to start cloning, and they're alluding to the fact that it's for Emperor Palpatine. Like, I just throws a wrench in the cogs for me.
I think one thing we also have to consider here is the way that it hints at Palpatine's return is that it's all done on Exegol, right? And that all of that work was being done by the Sith Eternals.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is the case, then this... whatever they've been teasing, whatever they've been dealing with this cloning stuff in The Mandalorian and in the end of Bad Batch may not actually have anything to do with the cloning of Palpatine.
It really couldn't even connect.
It could be an entirely different thing. We don't know for sure.
Think of this, right? Think of this. the gap between the end of season 1 of Bad Batch till Mandalorian season 1, that gap right there is even less than the gap from Mandalorian season 2 to Rise of Skywalker. Or, well, yeah, definitely that, but I'm saying Force Awakens. Like, that's like a 30-year gap. So I'm just saying, like, some of the stuff, like, I mean, it just doesn't really match up for me if if that is truly what they're doing. And while they haven't said that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. And I think we just don't have all the information yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does feel like all of these are trying to connect to the same thing, but I hope we're wrong, and I hope that
something else
they're
doing.
leading to other things, right? And right now, all we can think of is the fact that Palpatine's a clone, right? And we know he clones a lot of bodies before he gets.
Maybe they're doing all this for a project for Thrawn or something like that. I mean, I don't know, right?
You just don't know. And you know, if you want to get real crazy, you know, in the Thrawn series, we do get a clone of Luke, and so like maybe Thrawn's gonna try to clone Luke Skywalker.
That would be interesting, but I mean, obviously though, they couldn't set up for that now because Luke isn't even he's born, but he's not even like of significance at this point. In fact, I don't even think Thrawn is even part of the Empire. He could be. I think he has actually joined it post.
Jedi, we're not entirely sure. We're not entirely sure what Thrawn is right now. Like, right.
I just from previous research, I think we've talked about this. Like our presumption was that he joined shortly after the fall of the Jedi. But even if that is the case, and that's not the case. Luke is just a baby / toddler / little kid. Like
no. What I'm talking about, I'm talking about in the Mandalorian. I'm not talking about what's happening in the Bad Batch.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
I'm saying like those where we've seen they were looked like they were trying to clone something in the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Again, I'm saying that what happens there and in the Bad Batch may be different. Now, some of you may be listening thinking, why are you guys talking about this? The reason we're talking about this is because nothing of any kind of significance to talk about happened in the Bad Batch.
So we're trying to grasp it.
So we're trying to talk about things that might be interesting to you.
Let's put it this way. This is a note when I was writing down some notes for this review. This is a short little sentence here that I feel like encapsulates the whole thing. I just feel like more than it being a story with a well-driven narrative, it's more just an experience, it's quote unquote, that allowed us to see the transition from the Republic to the Empire. That's what Bad Batch was. It was more just to fill that gap, to let us see that part of the lore and history more than it was and actually trying to provide a good story.
Yeah, it answered how did we get from clones to stormtroopers? It answered why don't we see the cloning facility? Right. It answered. Why
did they never go back or whatever?
Yeah. And yes, I'm glad to see that history, but it would have been nice to have a very important story around those events, right?
It's funny because the next sentence is was this nice to see? Sure. But at the same time, it felt like a waste of a show. Of an entire 16 episode show. You know?
And
they could have done more with that.
Right. And so, but here we are. Now, I don't want to make you feel bad if you enjoyed this show.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I actually, my dad, for one, enjoyed the show. He has defended it. We've had many conversations about the Bad Batch, and he has defended the Bad Batch multiple times. And there have been episodes that I was okay with. There's also been... Is everything okay?
Yeah, it's
okay. All right,
I'm very emotive with my face, unfortunately.
That face just didn't seem like everything was good. Okay.
I was reading something, sorry.
But I teach this little boy drum lessons, and he every time he comes in here, he sees all my Star Wars stuff, right? So like he knows I'm a big Star Wars fan, and he likes Star Wars, and so we always talk about Star Wars, and he loves the Bad Batch. Yeah, and he comes in and he tells me about the newest episode he's watched. He knows all the characters' names, talks awesome. About them.
Yeah.
And looking at it from a child's perspective, like, he likes a show, and it's probably going to mean way more to him in 5 years than what it's going to mean to me.
Let's broaden this so we're not to insult someone, right? Not from the perspective of a child per se. How do I say this? Basically, the reason we're being so critical is because Andrew and I would probably classify ourselves as like hyper fans. That we are apprentice lore masters, right?
Yes.
We are someone who has been born and raised with Star Wars. We adore it. It's our passion. We love Star Wars. For Pete's sake, we started a podcast about it. So we're being very critical because it doesn't deep dive into critical story building things that we would hope for. But in all intents and purposes, it was a fun show to watch. But in terms of what it could have gone into, we thought it was lacking because of our standing.
At this point, we are kind of intentionally overcritical of these things, right?
Always.
That's kind of what we do.
That's our point.
At this point. But yeah, like, so, and something else you have to remember is these shows. I mean, let's think about Rebels. Let's think about Clone Wars. Think about the first seasons of those shows. They're not great.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not. And those shows had a little more going for them as far as established characters.
Mm-hmm.
This show is using this whole essentially a whole new cast of characters that we've only seen very little of.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, things can grow. These characters can grow on us. The story can mature.
Yeah,
as Clone Wars and Rebels both did.
Yeah.
But I guess for me is I feel like this story should already be to a matured point because of what the story is telling.
Yes.
This is a dark, dark time.
Yes.
Okay. A very
Absolutely.
dark time. And they know a majority of their audience for these things are adults.
Yeah.
It's adult men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like
as sad as that is,
it's true. That I guarantee you, if there is any kind of chart out there, demographic, I guarantee you, I would bet every dollar I have that the highest watching group is the like, I don't know, like what, 25 to 40.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's right, 25 to 40. We'll just put that.
I almost guarantee you.
Yeah,
and so. It's like this show could have been a continuation of those fans that started all those years ago watching Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been a maturing story with that audience.
Yeah,
and again, it would have made perfect sense to do that.
And to reflect the, again, dark nature of the time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not the way they've went.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you they argue that that's kind of what they're doing, but it's not.
Right. Unfortunately.
But I think that this still has potential to go interesting places.
Yeah. No, there's always room for improvement. I think, and again, like you said, I'm in the same boat. I would have thought that it would have gotten to the matured, like it's not substantial. I'm saying like substantive. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of substance, right, to the show. You think it would have already been to this point. Because here's the thing. Let's call it as it is. That's kind of how Dave Filoni rolls, man. Like, he starts off slow, and then he gets to this masterpiece all of a sudden. And I thought, okay, we have 16 episodes. Dave Filoni has a lot of time to do this. And it just never happened. Because here's the thing. With Mandalorian Season 2 started off with a bang. With one of the greatest Mandalorian episodes in Season 2, Episode 1. But then you can go back to our reviews of Mandalorian Season 2. There were a ton of episodes where we complained about how it was just filler. But then all of a sudden, like the last 3 or 4 episodes of that season was phenomenal. It was so great. And I just kind of hoped that was the way it was going to be for this show. Like, oh man, there's a lot of dead episodes where like literally nothing happened. But hey, per Dave Filoni style, it's just going to swoop in at the end and just absolutely knock our socks off. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. I don't know.
And I think, we do have to keep in mind that Dave Filoni, he was not he was like an executive producer on this, right? But he wasn't the dude. He wasn't the guy. And so because of that, I don't know where this will go, but we can't necessarily depend on Dave Filoni to save the day. Per se.
Yeah, for sure.
Dave Filoni is most likely live action from now on, right?
After the success of Mandalorian,
I mean, I know he
probably.
loves animation, but no matter what, animation will always be considered a step down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that comes with a pay cut as well. So I would say Dave Filoni is most likely going to stay in live action as far as like actual directing goes. But maybe I'm wrong.
Let's think of it this way though too, right? Especially like we talked about this right before Mandalorian season 1 came in. Like Disney needs help, right? Like they need, after the sequel trilogy, they need a win. Mandalorian season 1 came in, it was a win. Mandalorian season 2 came in, it was a win. And I would say now maybe it's their directive, they're wanting to focus. Maybe it's him saying like, hey, they need help, right? And they realize, okay, Mandalorian season 1 and 2 did really well. Me and John worked on this, it did well. I need to focus on the things that's going to continue carrying Star Wars until the next set of big movies come out. And that very well could be the case. That very well could be the case.
Yeah.
We're getting off a little bit here.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and wrap it up. We've talked enough. Overall, the Bad Batch was disappointing, but it was still a fun time. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of room for improvement. We know we're getting a season 2, so we know that there is a chance to see some things escalate, to see maybe some returning characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I, for one, thought we would at least get a glimpse of Darth Vader, at least get a glimpse of Ahsoka. We got neither. So they're probably saving that for a season 2, right? So
which makes sense, but man, you think that like the end, the finale, they get that hook into what we're going to draw back to season 2, but
right. Yeah. So anyway, let's end it there. We hope you guys have enjoyed this. We went extra long, but we kind of did that intentionally because it's been a while. So we hope you guys enjoy this extra long episode. If you made it all the way to the end, give us a big thumbs up. Send it our way. Send us a comment. Tell us what you thought of the episode. We'd love to know that you reached this point.
Do 6 push-ups.
Yeah, if you do, send us a video of you doing a backflip.
Pat your head and rub your belly. And
No, but again, we appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please like us, share us on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. Our podcast episodes go on there. Also, our Let's Plays go on there. Mm-hmm. And we are going to be continuing our Let's Play. We're going to be doing our episode 5 Let's Play next Saturday at 2 o'clock. That will premiere. Mm-hmm. And so, like us on there. Share with your friends. Support us as much as you can, please. We ask of you. Next week we'll have that Let's Play, and then we'll be back here on our podcast the week after that. But until next time, may the Force be with you, and we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.
We would be honored if you would join us.
The Force